Hi there, welcome to Good for the Game TV and the Vuelta Espana Stage 9 betting preview. Well, the Vuelta, we're only a week in now onto Stage 9 and we've had plenty of action. Just talking to one of our guests before we came on air, this is the first real classified mountain stage that is expected to see a big sort out amongst the GC guys. But we've already lost a lot of riders. We've got some of them that have fallen off the pace quite considerably. And really, it's been all action for the first week. Can't wait to get going. Can't wait to talk about this particular stage and the betting prospects, because good news, it's fully televised on SuperSport. The coverage I see, I had it checked just before the show starts at 11:40. So that is excellent news indeed. I've got two guests with me, two big cycling fans, dying to talk about the Vuelta. And first up, let's welcome at Good for the Game on Twitter, Chris Sturdy. Chris, good to have you back on the show. And yeah, it's a cracker today, hey?
Yeah, looking forward to this, Brent. This does nicely for a Sunday, hey? This will see me for the rest of the day, no problem.
The family not going to see you. You'll just be lying on the couch all day watching cycling.
Yeah, that midday start, I'm glad with the full coverage, yeah, because we've only been getting the last couple of hours. So big stage and full coverage, that's great.
Excellent. And then couch critic on the Good for the Game forum, Hein de Mont. Hein, nice early start for you, man. You're normally only getting in from your night out at about this time.
Morning, Brent. Morning, Chris. Yeah, when I got the call for the starting time, I was a bit concerned. I was like, is it 8 a.m. or 8 p.m.? Because this doesn't sound right, eh?
Yeah, nice and early to get up. I must say, credit to the bookmakers. They have been coming out fairly early with the betting, but you know, with the stage finishing, then there's got to be a sorting out of odds and that. You don't generally get betting before about 10 o'clock at night. So the alternative is for us to sit up till really late in preview. And last night, after all that rugby betting, I was absolutely gone. Wasn't the best of days for me yesterday on the rugby side, I must say.
And some boxing, I see.
And some boxing. I started watching the boxing, and next thing you know, I was tweeting and betting. And needless to say, I backed Tabiso. He was 13-20, and I barely put the bet down, and he'd gone even money. And it soon became apparent he wasn't going to win the fight. So I didn't have much success on the boxing either, unfortunately. But guys, let's start off just talking about the Vuelta in general. Chris, I don't know how involved you got from a betting perspective. I made a very strong start, and then I've sort of laid low since then. But been a good race so far, and it's quite well set up from an overall classification point of view.
Yeah, looking at it, Brent, we've got 16 riders, I think, within like a minute and 3/4 of the lead, which includes some big names, but some have also fallen by the wayside. And then there's some guys who you can see maybe dropping out of contention as we get into week 3. But certainly very competitive and quite truncated at the top of the GC leaderboard. Yeah?
And Hein, just having a look at the outright betting, we've got Simon Yates 22-10, Nairo Quintana 28-10. You've got Lopez 7-2. Valverde is looking very good at the moment, but is focusing on the World Championships at 7-1. And you've got Chris's pre-match pick or pre-tournament pick at 14-1. Where are you looking at the moment from an outside perspective? Who would your money be going on?
Well, pre-Volta, I went for Miguel Angel Lopez at, I think I got 8-1 at the end. So I'm pretty happy with that. I think I've seen 1 or 2 showings of his that he's looking pretty strong. Obviously, you know, we'll only know when the real mountains start. I mean, at this stage, if you had to look at it, you'd think Valverde is gonna cruise it. But the stages have suited him. You know, this has always been his game. So seeing the high mountains come week 3, I think it's going to be a different story. So as Chris said, it's going to be interesting. What I'm hoping from today is just to get some of those pretenders cold out of the pack. Just thin it down a bit and see really, you know, especially with guys like Kruiswijk and Kelderman, to see whether, you know, any of them going to be real contenders. But at this stage, I'll only have it pinned down as Quintana and Lopez. To me, I don't see, you know, them dropping out. And then obviously Simon Yates, maybe we'll see in week 3 how he keeps going. So no, Quintana and Lopez, to me at this stage, still look with the business.
Yeah, I must say I'm Quintana there, just under 3-1. Yates, I'm not sure. He did show in the Giro that he battled with durability at the end of the 3 weeks. He is trying to ride a bit more conservatively now. So for me, I'm thinking Quintana could be quite a solid pick. And like you, I like Lopez a bit up front. Unfortunately, I didn't get on him at the bigger price. But to me, he is the big danger. Chris, do you see Valverde contending for the outright, or do you think it's going to be a question of getting as much glory as he can earlier and then potentially working for Quintana?
Good question, hey, because I think in the outright betting, Quintana's shorter than Valverde. So the bookmakers are suggesting that Quintana's the man. But if you look at even the stage betting today, I think Valverde's maybe shorter than Quintana. And when I saw him win the stage yesterday, where it was nothing like as tough as what they've got on the menu today, but he actually got the better of Sagan in an uphill sprint at the end. That suggested to me that, as you mentioned there, he's looking for glory where he can take it. He'll see how he goes with the GC. I'm not saying he's preparing to pull the pin at any stage, but I think that Quintana's the better bet longer term. And whether we will see Valverde get into the leader's jersey today is possible. I still think that Quintana's their main man, and he should be protected accordingly.
Right. Well, I'm going to share my screen now, guys, because I just want to have a look at the profile of today's stage. It certainly is quite a profile. We've got climbs virtually from the off. You've got sort of 20, 30 Ks to settle down with a couple of rises. Then we go into a Cat 1, a Cat 3, a Cat 2. Then some rolling terrain takes us to the final climb, which is, I think, an out-of-category climb by Vuelta standards. And I'll just pop along before we chat further on it and just quickly have a look at the mountain passes. These are just the percentages, and you can see 15.3 kilometers at 5.5%, and that one ends after 52 Ks. Then, for some reason, the next one is not coming up, probably slow Wi-Fi or something. So, in fact, I'm going to abort that because for some reason it's not showing the profiles. But we got pretty hectic climbs throughout the route. And that, of course, makes it possible for a strong breakaway to get away. And it then begs the question, are we going to be looking at a breakaway stage, or are we going to be looking at one of the GC favorites winning? And Hein, I'll start with you. Which way how have you assessed this stage? Is it going to the break, or is it going to the GC boys?
Well, you guys know me by this time. I like the bigger price on the breakaway. So usually, even when I think it's about 50-50 between the two, I stick some money on the breakaway. I just think you get much more value of that. Obviously, you're playing a bit of a darts game to try and decide who's going to be in it. But I just think those early climbs, usually early climbs to me on a big mountain stage is what you need for breakaway, because you're obviously going to get a proper climb in the break, where on normal days when it starts flat, you get these punchier type of riders. So you're not going to get a real climber who can keep a 2-minute gap at the end to the very end. So I think, like a Pierre Roland and those kind of guys who like to get in that break, if they get in the break, and then they could stay away.
Right, Chris, I'm having a look at the betting here. We got Simon. I mean, it's a pretty open betting heat, this, but the GC guys are given preference here. We got Simon Yates 9-2, Valverde 13-2, Lopez 13-2, Quintana himself 9-1. And you can get 14-1 and better the balance, starting with Bog Mollema, who I know is an old fiance of yours. You were on him a few times in the Tour de France. What do you reckon this week? Mollema got a chance?
Yeah, well, going back to Hein's point about whether the breakaway is going to have its day, I think Mollema's an obvious contender for the breakaway. And should he get there in that move, and should they stay away, then he might well be the sort of in-play favourite, I would imagine. One thing that might happen, you get the man up the road tactics from the GC teams, and then if the breakaway's like miles clear, do those guys get the orders to wait for their team leaders on that final climb, or do they get license to go for the stage? And I think in the Vuelta there's a bit more license for the guys to go for stage honours, whereas in the Tour de France they'd be told sit up and wait.
Right. Well, Hein, let's have a look at we're talking. We obviously we're going to get into some of your selections from the breakaway, but I guess the big question with a stage like this is going to be a breakaway go away. There's going to be a strong break. So the question is, which team is going to chase? And I suppose looking at it, you'd have to say it's almost up to the likes of Movistar and perhaps Espana as to whether or not they bring it back, because there's not many other teams with the firepower, or perhaps the inclination to bring it back for their GC men.
Yes, exactly. That's the other case for a break, is depending on who. So usually they'll have a look at who's the favorite for the stage, or the big GC guys. So I don't really see Orica bringing it back for Yates. So I don't see that. I don't think they're strong enough to do it. So as you say, it's going to be Astana and Movistar who are going to have to push it. Obviously, Movistar they'll be keen because they'd like to push Quintana up and try and put a few of the guys under pressure. And then obviously, Valverde is pretty much the favorite for the stage. So I think they'll be pushing for him. So it's those two teams, and the rest are going to sit back and enjoy the ride. So maybe a lot will depend on how Lopez is feeling. If he's really feeling plucky, then Astana will help out. If he isn't, or maybe they've got someone in the break, then I don't see one team being strong enough to pull in if there's some decent climbers in that breakaway. But then the other thing that Chris also mentioned, even someone like Mollema is, I like those bets because they almost a double play. They can still stay with the big guys and then just shoot out earlier as well and not be chased down because they're not a threat. So someone like Dan Martin, who I saw a good price on last night, you know, he could be a contender for maybe not getting in the break, but just sticking with the GC guys and then going earlier than the rest and them not having any incentive to chase him down. So it's nice having those guys. Maybe even a Michael Woods could be the same type of rider. He could either be in the break or he could wait and go later and have the luxury of not really having someone get straight on his wheel immediately.
Yeah, it's a good point that you get perhaps two chances with guys like that. I just want to touch on Dan Martin, Hein, and I'll stay with you now. I know you did mention to me you saw 50-1 last night, and then very, very quickly that 50-1 disappeared, and there was sort of 25-1 is the best I've seen this morning. I've noticed with this Tour de France betting, the first bookmakers normally come out 10. I'm sorry, not Tour de France, Vuelta. The first bookmakers normally come out around 10:30, and you've probably got a 15-minute to maybe 30-minute window where you can often spot some serious value. But it doesn't take long for others to spot that value, and before you know it, that's cut down. And I guess that's what happened with Martin here. The initial pricing had him at 50, but soon became apparent that he had the double chance, and his price was cut accordingly.
Yes, definitely. As you say, it's quite strange in that, and often in the Tour de France, you'd have a look and you'd think, now I'm going to sleep on it, and by the time you wake up, the odds in the morning is completely different, and then you quite. So I usually went that way, especially for more of the outsider guys. I took a few punts in the evening at 50-1-ish or bigger, and then at least know that I've got those few outsiders. And I think there might be a few guys doing previews later and things like that. And as soon as people start reading that, then they jump on those prices, and it shortens quite drastically, as I say. Because I mean, today is a great example. Dan Martin has been iffy. You're not really sure what you can expect to him, but I mean, he's come to the Vuelta, so obviously he wants something out of it. But he's apparently leaving for the birth of his child. So it's a short tour for him. So I think he's going to target today as something that he could go for. But you know, as soon as you get to 20-1-ish, it's not as much value. But 50-1, I think you can't get it.
Right. Well, I was actually fancying Martin on Friday. I never got my bet down, but he actually ended up having a mechanical and unfortunately not able to contend. Chris, let's run through your selections for today. What's your first pick?
Well, I've gone with Mollema because I think he is genuinely going to get in the break, and if the break does stay away, then he's my man. Just listening to Hein there and about Dan Martin and yourself there, Brent, your thoughts on Dan Martin. Yeah, I mean, if he's going to bail early, I didn't know that, then he's got to be saving something up for one big effort, yeah? And if he had a mechanical the other day, then it makes him even more likely to target today, I guess, doesn't it? So, yeah, even if there's maybe some 25s now, or if he's halved in price or something, then I might just have a little interest there, because you don't have to get too involved at that price still, even though you've missed the bigger odds the night before, you know.
That's it. Well, you can get Dan Martin still. There's definitely some 25-1 available. I saw at WSB. Just before I go back to Hein, just give you my outright selection. I am going with Valverde here at 13-2. Just been so impressed with how he's gone in the Vuelta so far. And there is my only thing I'm concerned about today. Well, there's two things I'm concerned about. One, obviously, that the break sticks, in which case Valverde won't contest the stage. But I do think that it's going to come back down to a GC battle. I think the likes of Movi and Astana are going to work hard today. And then the other worry, I guess, is that he is ultimately riding for Quintana. And if tactics play out that he actually has to work for Quintana today, then that will also count against me. But I actually think that it's early enough in the tour that Valverde is going to be given free rein. He is a guy who, while he does help teammates, he is in it there for himself, and perhaps understandably given his ability. But at 38, he's not going to get many more chances to win stages. And I think that Valverde is my outright runner there at 13-2. I haven't really looked too far down the list for any other selections, but I do have a match bet that I'll share a little bit later on. Hein, do you want to give us your outright selections? I'm sure you've got a few long shots for us.
Yes, Ben, I just think on the GC one there, I think you've got a good one in Valverde. The final climb is it starts steep and then it gets less steep, or it doesn't start too steep, but then it gets steep, and then towards the end it flattens down a bit again. So, you know, that to me is ideal Valverde terrain. So I think if it goes down to the big boys, and there's not someone that really has a big, if Lopez doesn't go early on the climb, and they try and take it deep, then I don't see anyone beating Valverde in that kind of situation. So I think you've got a good one there. But yeah, obviously, as I said, I'm hoping for something else to happen. Mollema, I actually had a look, and I was hoping to get something big on him, because I do rate him. He's one of those climbers that actually has got a good kick towards the finish. So as Chris said there, you know, I've gone for Pierre Roland, but if Volker Mollema gets in that same break, then I'm pretty buggered, because he'll definitely outsprint him. And then to cover Pierre Roland, he might be on off duties today, be given the day off. Then Michael Woods will take up the same kind of role. So I'm going to go on Michael Woods there. I think I got him at 66-1. Pierre Roland at 33-1, and then Alexander Genes again. He's definitely going to be a go for the break. I mean, he's got no other opportunity there, so I'll take him for being in the break. And I got him at 50-1. And then yes, I've also got one match bet. I think I'll just go straight into that match bet. I think it's going to be a hot day out there again. I actually had a look at the top 10 out of the previous stage results there, or the previous stage. It was so crazy. You had climbers, punchers, and real sprinters all mixed in there. And someone said it might be a case of the weather really buggering things around there. So I'm thinking the guy I know doesn't cope well with the weather is Thibaut Pinot. Going to be too hot for him, and I think Uran has looked very lively. So I'll take Rigobito Uran to beat Thibaut Pinot there at pretty much evens, I think.
Yeah, it is even money. I'm sharing my screen at the moment. I just put a little summary down of our bets, and there we've got your bets there. Roland 33-1, Genius 50, Wood 66-1. I like that Wood selection as well. And then Uran over Pinot. I'll run through mine quickly. Valverde 13-2, and then I also like a match bet. I like Bennett over Buchmann. And Buchmann I've been very impressed with so far, but he was involved in an accident over the last couple of days. I can't recall exactly when it was. And there's always a danger that after an accident, the body takes some time to recover. And I have been quite impressed with Bennett. He didn't quite manage to finish things off the other day when his team worked really hard. But I'm going for him to beat him at 9-10. And perhaps our double there, Couch, will work out somewhere around the 27-10 mark. Could be one to go for. And then, Chris, of course, we've got your Mollema pick at 14-1. Anything else you want to add on to that?
Not really. If it comes down to GC, then I would be torn between Lopez and Quintana, in all honesty. I respect Valverde. I could well be wrong here, Brent, but we're not far off 2,000 Ks where it tops out on that final climb. And although obviously that tests everybody, I think at 2,000 Ks, I'd rather be on Quintana than Valverde. Yeah,
I must say I did see that stat, and Valverde is known to struggle in the really high altitude. So that's a good point. 2 Ks above sea level is pretty hectic. And so that is a little bit of concern on that. Just something else to bear in mind today, I believe there's going to be a bit of a headwind going up the final climb, and that actually discourages breaks and stuff as well, because you obviously got to ride into a strong wind, whereas if it's a tailwind, it's generally much more attacking racing. So we could well have a situation where a group of the favourites come in together, and obviously then if that is the case, Valverde will be a good one. But Chris, you're quite right with that one. He doesn't have the best of record at the really high altitudes. Guys, it's going to be exciting. I'm not going to be able to watch from the start of the stage, but I will be recording, and I'll probably be catching up, because I think to watch the break form today is going to be very interesting. And Hein, given your selections in particular, you're going to be there watching the likes of Woods and Genius and hoping they're in the action.
Definitely, the only problem with picking a break is that you could be stuffed at 1 o'clock and have no one running for you. So then I'd have to go in running and look for someone, because I mean I'm going to be watching this stage, and I can't be watching as you switching on to boxing. You know, us punters, we have to have an interest. There's no you can't watch without having an interest. So then I'll get on to someone in running there, and yes, I'm definitely going to be switching between the channels, because I've got a pretty big interest in the Formula One late afternoon as well, and there'll obviously be some soccer to go to. So it's going to be a busy time on the couch this afternoon.
That's it, Chris. I've got to ask you, when you watch the cycling, do your birds watch with you?
They're more football birds than cycling birds. But it's good that they're getting an appearance on the show, you know. This sort of time, 8 o'clock, between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock any morning, they're usually going to be around, yeah? Whether they're always going to be this noisy, I can't guarantee.
No. Well, I just went, next time, could you get parrots so they could actually say names instead of just tweeting when we mention them? Because they may be pointing out the winners to us and we don't even realize it.
I've been trying to teach these guys to talk. Apparently, it can be done, but these are ringnecks. But they just squawk. That's all they do is squawk. So apologies if they've interrupted anybody's enjoyment of this show.
No, they weren't too bad. Although the name ringneck, yeah, you might want to wring their neck at some point. I'm sure. No, I'm only kidding. Guys, thanks very much. It was great chatting. Look forward to the Vuelta, and we'll no doubt be in touch on Twitter and WhatsApp and that throughout the stage. Guys, thanks a lot, and we'll be back at some point in the future with another Vuelta preview. We are selecting them. We're not previewing every stage, but we'll have a look at the big ones, the ones where we think we can get involved from a betting angle. Thanks, guys. Chat soon.
Thank you. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Simon.
Cheers, guys.
Excellent. You remember you can subscribe to all of our videos if just below this video that you're watching now. We hope you enjoy the Vuelta preview and look forward to joining you again soon, and also, of course, catching up with you on our flagship betting show at 9 o'clock on Thursday night. Enjoy the stage.